Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to another daily reflection. My name is Brandon Forshino, and I'm so glad that you're here. As we look at today's first reading, we see the title of this passage, The Power of God, the Vanity of Idols. And you see, I love how this title also sets the stage for this passage, but also helps beautifully summarize the purpose of this reading. And the question that we will consider is found built into today's first reading, which comes out of verse 25. And that question is, to whom can you liken me as an equal? You see, leading up to this question, the poet is leading the audience to truly reflect on the power of God, but also just the very nature of who he is. So this first reading and this first question should also be a question that we should consider. Are there people in our lives that we try to put up in the same category as our God? I want us to think about that balancing scale and thinking about God being on one of those platforms and thinking about what in our life have we tried to place on the other scale. You see, there's nothing that we could put on that other scale that comes close to equaling who God is, or even balancing that scale out. Verses 28 through 31 describe beautifully this power of God. He is the creator of the ends of the earth. You see, God does not grow faint or weary. His knowledge is beyond scrutiny. He gives abundant strength to those who are weak. And I love this descriptive power. Have we not heard? Do we not know? You see, this is not fake news. This is not just clickbait. This is the truth. And this poet is setting the stage not only for the Israelites to recognize where they are falling short and where they are weak, but the poet is also providing us with a beautiful reminder of the true power that comes from God. The promise that's attached to this that comes from our first reading is that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength, that they will soar on eagle's wings. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not grow faint. The promise as a result of those who place their hope in the Lord. You see, friends, to me, this is the greatest fear of missing out. Are we missing out on the opportunity for this type of strength, for this type of power? Perform a self-assessment of your own life. You see, nothing or no one compares to the power of God. It is time-tested, and it's been proven true. So the next question is this. If we know this about God, if we've heard the news, well then how do we glean and receive this power and strength that we read about in today's first reading? How do we experience the power of God in our own lives? You see, the answer to that question lies in today's gospel. Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest." Jesus is the one who gives us this rest. But the invitation is to come. Jesus is inviting us to come to him. That Jesus is not forcing himself on you and I. He continues on and says to take my yoke upon you and learn from me. You see, just as the yoke was used for animals to be joined together for the plow, that the weight and distribution would be evenly shared so that this task is being shared. Jesus uses this image today of a yoke to remind us that when we come and submit and surrender to Christ, that Christ is taking the heavier burden, the heavier load, that he is taking this yoke upon him. Jesus says his yoke is easy and his burden is light, that Jesus is leaving room for us. He's ready to share this task. Jesus provides us with this illustration. By following Jesus and submitting to his guidance, we can find rest and learn how to live a life that is not burdensome. He also wants to teach us how to walk alongside him. You see, the ultimate problem that we face in life and what ultimately drives this burden is when we are not joining the Lord for the plow. So what is it that prevents us from experiencing not only the power of God, but experiencing this amazing yoke that Christ is referring to in today's gospel? Is it pride? Perhaps you've grown up and have become accustomed to fending for yourself and living under a mentality that you have to do it on your own. Or maybe you've turned to different idols in your life that provide maybe a temporary relief of the burden and the labor of your life, but at the end of the day, you've come to a point too where you recognize you need help. You see, Christ wants to share in the task, whatever that task is for you. You see, we should be working smarter, not harder. If you feel this heavy burden in the labor that comes from the labor of life, our God is gentle. He's willing and able. And He's inviting us today to come. Scriptures not only reveal the very nature of God, but how has this nature of God been seen in your own life? Where's the evidence where God has shown up and has shown and given the abundant strength in times where you've been in most need? Make the decision today to not only recognize the power of God, make the decision today to join Christ and learn to walk alongside Him and let go of the burden that you've been carrying today. Friends, that is peace. Thank you so much for joining me for another daily reflection. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Until then, God bless.